Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Becoming African. I'm your hostess, Rispo Kello, and today I'm here with two lovely guests, and I'll just let them introduce themselves before we dive into today's conversation.
Ladies first.
All right. Hi, I'm Sophie. I am a second year vet student, and I am from Finland, but I grew up in Luxembourg.
That's all?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Harneet and I'm from India, and I recently graduated from the University of Surrey in International Tourism. I just finished my master's, and yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Rispo, for doing this.
I love that.
Thank you.
I mean, you know, it's basically my first podcast, so
Yeah, mine too.
I'm just extremely really excited to be
Yeah.
here.
Oh,
So yeah, what are we
guys.
going to talk about today?
Thank you guys for coming. So today's topic, one word, culture. We decided that we're going to celebrate the cultural diversity that we have, not only in Surrey, but more specifically in our friend group, because the three of us actually, funny story, we're like the first people we were actually the first group who went out together, like when we met here.
Yeah.
So our friendship has been there for a long time, and we just decided Harneet is going to be in town, and let's have him on the podcast.
Why not? Go diversity.
Yeah, exactly. So we just want to look at the different, how we grew up as a kid, how our different cultural backgrounds have shaped us into being who we are right now. And despite, having some differences in our background, we still there are some similarities that we do share. And I think I will throw the question to my guests for today. Well, how was your upbringing like? How is it when you guys grew up?
Ladies
Right.
first.
All right. Well, I think my upbringing was maybe a bit different to a lot of people who are from Finland, just because I grew up in Luxembourg, which is already very international. It's like 50% international people, I think. And I also went to a British international school, so there was kind of influence from like the British culture and then the Finnish culture and then like the international culture from Luxembourg. Plus, I'm also from the Swedish-speaking part of Finland, which is also a different culture from the regular Finnish culture per se. So I think it's just like a very big international mix of cultures growing up. Yeah.
One question: where are you from?
It's a long story.
If one country, if I just give you an option of, just.
I would
just one
say
country.
I'm Finn-Swede.
Okay.
Because I think saying I'm from Finland is a bit too general, just because I don't always relate to Finnish people and their culture, and I don't speak Finnish fluently, and the culture is like sometimes more Scandinavian and sometimes more Finnish, so I'd say I'm Finn-Swede if someone asked me, but a lot of people don't know what that is, so.
You're literally like in European Union and yourself.
She is the union.
You are the
I really
Union.
am.
Where does your dad work again?
Yeah, my dad works in the European Parliament.
Of course, I'm not surprised.
It really adds up, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
Okay.
does.
What about your needs? How's your upbringing like?
Typically Indian.
Yeah.
I'm from my hometown is towards the east side of India, near Kolkata or Calcutta. It used to be called back then. Just 4 hours away from then, in a city called Jamshedpur. Sorry, it's not town; it's a city. That's where the Tatas are from. The Tata industry, who owns Jaguar, Land Rover, and the Tata Steel of. Yeah. So, we're the owners of Jaguar Land Rover very proudly. So, yeah, I'm from their city basically, and after that, I moved to Bangalore. So, I would say like my key growing up maturely has been in Bangalore, which is southern India, and which the city that I love. It's my favorite city down in south. So, yeah, overall. Yeah, it's been a very mixed culture that I've always in India also, like, it's so diverse. Almost 5 billion people, like almost 1.5 billion people. So like I've seen multiple different cultures of India. Like you literally go to next town and you're going to see someone speaking another language or something like that. And yeah, we're going to go more into detail later into the particulars of how day to day was growing up in an Indian household, and yeah, I'm also a Sikh, so that adds up to the the spice level of our culture. So yeah, what about you?
Oh, the interviewer has become the interviewee.
Yeah.
Okay. My life. you know, unlike Sophie, I grew up in Kenya. Period. Like there's nothing, there's nothing more to it. So initially, I grew up in, I'd say, well, the not so developed place in Kenya. So my parents obviously worked very hard to ensure that me and my sister and my brother, why would I forget him, received like quality education. So eventually in time we moved to a much better place, and I went to a British international school. And yeah, I mean, I've always just been raised by the community around me. It's always been the same vibe. I think similar to how India is, even in Kenya, as much as we all speak English, and then we also have our official language like Swahili, we have like the the small tribes in it. So I'm half Luo and half Meru. I do not speak my mother tongue, which is the one thing I really regret, like never actually being like, Mom, Dad, you really need to teach me. But they're always, you know, we can tell, like I can tell, okay, this is my fellow Luo or a fellow Meru. They're like, I think 47, 49 different tribes. So just aside from us being Swahili speakers, there are small subsections, which I think that's quite cool. And I thought that's how it was globally, but turns out, no, that like here in the UK people just speak English. Like here they just speak English. You're only speaking one language.
Do you have a national language in Kenya?
So like Swahili is our national language.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I like. I mean, Itaita. So that's ideally how we grew up. So there's now if you actually dive into, you know, the gist of it. What was the parenting style like? Let me start. My parents never, like, the phrase, I think the one quote in the Bible that they abided to, like it was ingrained in their mind, was spare the rod, spoil the child. You have to beat your kid for them to be disciplined. That like I don't know what it is, but like it was ingrained in and it's not just my parents. Everybody and the mama knew that this is the vibe. So from the moment I could commit sin, I was from the moment I could be the reckless child. That was the vibe I grew up with. I'm assuming it's the same thing for you, Harneet.
Absolutely. I feel we share a lot of commonalities here when it comes to culture, and it wasn't really strict for me, I would say. I mean, typically I would say Indian families are really known to be a bit conservative. It was there back then. Things have kind of, I would say, become much better over the years, where, you know, people have that exposure to the modern world, and I would just say like logical stuff, right? Earlier it used to be just very, you know, like kind of just out in the blind, like people are just following what their ancestors followed. But now things have become more logical, and I would say, like, especially Sikh households, I would say they're known to be very I would say chilled out, relaxed, open-hearted, be very welcoming, hospitable. So like I would say my parents were really chilled out. Definitely, if I have to talk about my childhood, since you just said, I was a very, very naughty kid. When I was like really small in school, I was literally like, my mom used to cry.
Oh,
like, so there's a funny incident what I did when I was a kid. I literally like pulled the television literally on my face. I was really, really small, and literally like the entire glass pieces and all, they were there in my skin and all of that. I mean, I used to be very naughty. Like literally sometimes I used to just run out of the house, just run towards my grandmother's place, because we all live in the same locality. It's the same colony or the society, I would say. So yeah, my mom used to really cry. Like she used to tell that why. But then obviously when I grew up, I became really matured. As you guys know, you guys have spent some time with me over the past 1 year.
Of course.
Yeah, okay, fine. But yeah, overall it has been great, honestly. Yes, we will talk about a bit more about definitely, I think, especially our parents in our culture, we used to get beaten up by our parents a lot as well. Oh my god. So yeah, I think up till 6th or 7th, no, I think 5th or 6th grade, I think that was my last beating.
That's true.
That's no hate crime. There's no negativity. It's just out
it's
of
not
love.
Domestic violence.
It's not domestic violence at all. It's just that, you know, it's just out of concern and love. It used to be like then, because all the ancestors, they all just followed the same thing, but now things have changed, and it's really chilled out, honestly.
Yeah. Let me throw the same question to
Yeah.
Sophie, because I'm assuming on the other end of the spectrum, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, my parents, I don't think have ever laid a hand on me in my whole life. I think my parents were a lot more like, I don't want you to fear me, I want you to respect me. Like, out of respect, you're not gonna misbehave or whatever. And that's why they were like a lot more like having rules, and if you don't follow them, then you have less privilege. So like, you can't go out with your friends. If you don't come home on time, then they can't trust you to be going out responsibly, more stuff like that. And then obviously I had punishments when I was younger. Like, I had like a naughty chair that I had to sit on if I did anything bad.
That's so cute.
Or one time, actually, I know my sister always was threatened by my mum to get her mouth washed out with soap if she said bad words. And we never believed her, because like, she never did anything like in that style towards us ever. And then one time she actually did it, and since then we were like, yeah, okay, she's done it once, she could do it again, like. So then we believed her with that one. But yeah, I feel like in general it's a very like
cute,
I guess, like European, maybe, I don't know about like more Southern Europe, but I think in Northern Europe it's a lot more like about respect and about like rules, and if you don't follow them then there are consequences, but not physical, just like you know, you don't have as much privilege to do the things that you want to do freely, which I think is like the way that I want to raise my kids, because I think that's
absolutely
like culturally it makes more sense to me to be like, you know, I want you to trust me, I want you to trust me to trust you, and you to trust me, and just kind of have that like trust and be able to, you know, have a good relationship, I guess.
Yeah. I think if I just pick up on something that you said, how your parents wanted to raise you guys in environment where it's like, I don't want you to fear me, I want you to respect me. What I like to believe, like the previous African generations have seen it as, because you fear me, you will respect me, you know. So that's why you'd find whatever small thing that you did. I mean, granted, some of us were, I mean, kids are reckless, irrespective of where you, like, that your curiosity is what's leading you to be reckless, because you're obviously trying to learn, oh, is this gonna hurt me, is this not gonna hurt me? But as an adult, I think that times you kind of forget that you once had that curiosity, and you had to learn the hard way that if you go and touch the pan that is on the stove, you're gonna get burnt. If you put your hand in the water that's boiling, you're gonna get burnt. If you decide to pull the TV to your face, you're gonna get hurt. You know, like you.
See, that was rare. You know, come on. That was just me being naughty. You know, like just running away here and there and breaking stuff.
You know, this thing is, you know, I mean, as an adult now, you see, like, obviously this is how it is. But as a kid, you don't know that. So your curiosity is what would lead to finding you in such situations. And I think, maybe it could have been like, either, I'd like to think of it could be lack of patience, but also lack of other parenting techniques that they're aware of. They're like, oh, why would you do this? So I'm gonna, you know, discipline you the way I was disciplined, or the way I know how. And then because of that fear, so that fear is what's gonna make you not do it again. Not because you know why it's wrong, but because you know if it happens and you get caught, then you're gonna be in the same situation.
In this case, like, I don't blame our parents, I would say.
Most definitely.
It's just that probably I think they had a difficult time, and probably our grandparents would have had a difficult time, or kind of similar parenting techniques, right? I mean, we all come from so different backgrounds. Our history really talks a lot about how we have actually been brought up. So and I feel like, as you said about the whole respect part, and I would say I'm really fortunate to have my parents, like how they kind of raised me up. I think the whole traditional side of it, so I can really divide the life in a very traditional and the logical side of it. So it was a bit traditional probably in my early days, but as and when I grew up, exactly what you said, it literally happened that way, wherein they understood. And I think my parents have always been open to discussions about, you know, where I come from, if I have like a different mindset that they probably saw something else in their olden days, but now they're always up for that discussion. And, you know, they literally started respecting the whole thing. As in when I grew up, they're like, okay, you know, let me just listen to him, he's probably coming from somewhere. And the whole thing happened where, you know, if you do something wrong, there are going to be consequences. So like for me, I think I've been really fortunate to have very understanding side of the, like the Indian society because of my parents. But yes, I do have friends who have been brought up in a very conservative side as well. But I mean, most of them, it has become really better with time, So yeah, it's literally just that. I mean, with time, it's just becoming much better and better.
Yeah. I think the point that you made in regards to like it's a generational thing. I mean, these are the same techniques that have been passed down to them from when they grew up. Also, like I think now as an adult, I'm starting to learn how to look at the life that my parents lived and try and imagine the life that my grandparents lived and try and link it all. Because like I have 2 other siblings. My parents have at least 9 siblings each. Like they're coming from big families only for them to settle with small families. So obviously a mom and a dad, they don't have the time to look after all 10 to 13 kids and tend to them then emotionally the same way. So that be like, I just want my kids to grow up being disciplined kids. I just want them to be on the right side of like the society's laws and everything. So of course they're gonna instill discipline the way they know how. But then I was also thinking to myself, and it's a question I remember I asked a friend in a previous video that I was recording, would you beat your kids?
Sorry?
Would you discipline your kids the way your parents disciplined you?
No, I don't think so. I feel it's just that with the exposure that I've had, like I find some ways much better, and I obviously like beating is not the right way to go for it, and I think even like my parents and my family members, they acknowledge that fact. It's just that they didn't have a lot of exposure back then, and what it was just like a parenting method that they thought that would work, but nowadays it doesn't work, and I'm very much open about it. I wouldn't discipline my kids the way my parents did.
So do you think the same parenting techniques your parents used would be the same ones that you'll use on your kids, or is there something you'd want to change?
I think like broadly I would probably say I think I would want to raise my kids, like, in terms of punishment, like, I would think I would want to raise them the same way. I feel like like, at least growing up in my household, the view was more like you were saying, like, the consequences of the actions. Like, if you touch a hot stove, you get burnt. That's, like, the punishment of your actions. Like, that's, you're already, getting hurt from it. And then it's more just, like, explaining to the kid, like, this is what you did, and that's the consequence of it, and that's why you shouldn't do it again. And that's the learning process, because like kids are still just learning. That's why they do stupid things most of the time. And I feel like that's a more like kind of like progressive way of like teaching them things, because they're gonna do stupid things, but if you teach them as they go on, I think that's a better way of doing it. And I think like something that I was just thinking about when you were saying about your parents as well, I feel like you can't really always like judge parents for what they've done growing up to you, because like just like you're doing life for the first time, your parents are doing life for the first time, at least in this lifetime, no matter what you believe in. So I think like judging your parents for raising you a way that is what like all they know, it's what they grew up with, I think you still have to give them some grace, because they're still all doing it for the first time as well, and they might realize later that it wasn't the right thing to do, but like, what can you do? They're all just trying their best, right?
Same question goes to you first. Come on.
What question?
What?
What question?
This is a two-way conversation.
True. Okay, but before I answer that, because I have a question on what he said, do you
That's what she said. Oh yeah, okay. We'll go with that, yeah. No,
that was meant to happen.
No vulgar jokes in this podcast. Come on.
Okay, we need some jokes.
Not jokes like
By the way, this podcast is not sponsored by Costa. Okay, this is just I just want some coffee.
You should put like the ad thing.
I'm gonna put some, like a hidden. What do you say that? That put a piece of paper just to hide Costa.
Hide it. It's just decorative. Okay, let's get back into it. Question to you guys before I answer the question that you guys have thrown back to me. Because parents also, they're learning how to be parents for the first time. Do you think that firstborn kids are basically a trial run?
Nice. You go first. I think we all.
Or I can go first. My answer is yes.
Yeah, I agree.
You have
yeah.
an elder sibling. I have an elder sibling.
I'm the
Yeah.
eldest.
I'm
You're
the,
the eldest.
I'm the
Oh, so you
middle.
guys? You guys are not first. Oh, so I'm the only child around here. Okay. You're not the firstborn, are you?
No, I'm second born.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
You really don't know.
No, but we
anything
can
about this.
talk
I-
from.
Yeah, I think it's a good because
Yeah.
like you're the eldest. Do you
Mm.
have younger siblings?
No,
No, so he's the youngest,
So you're the
and
last
I'm the
boy.
middle. So it's a
I'm the
different.
second one. That's the last.
Yeah. So we
Okay,
have
first,
a
second,
youngest.
third.
Yeah. So
Okay,
there's a
okay, we can look at
there's
it
a
like
good
that. As a, from a
perspective
first one
difference here.
perspective, I think that I was, and I think firstborns are, because, I mean, you don't. Okay, there's a twist to that. How do I phrase this? I think for parents that were not firstborns in their family, their firstborn kid is a children. But for a parent that was a firstborn in their family, their first kid is not a children because you raised your siblings. Which for me now, when I look at it, if I
Sorry,
was
can you repeat that again?
yeah, of course. Let me repeat it for the audience
I
and
think I kind of zoned out.
Okay. So for parents who were not firstborns in their family,
Yeah,
their first kid is a children.
right,
But for parents that were firstborns, the first kid is not a children.
right.
So for me, I have two other siblings. So my sisters, like, age difference is 3, and then with my brother, I think it's 11. So it's, yeah, don't question it. So when my brother, so when my brother was growing up, I've seen him grow up. I would like to believe I was the third parent. Aside from my parents,
absolutely.
So obviously there are times when I'd see him doing things and I'm like, what are you doing? And I think to myself, okay, well, mom and dad are not here to like tell you what's up. So I'd be like, bro,
Yeah,
can we have a chat, And we sit down and I talk him through him like, this is why you shouldn't be doing this is why you should be doing that. There are times he'd come from school and he'd tell me about his school life. He comes and tells me about his social life. He's like, oh, but this one did this. I'm like, relax, it's not that serious. Like, I was a parent,
Yeah.
so I feel like I have raised my brother now. Like, I've seen how he grew. So when if I think about having kids in the foreseeable future, I'll always be remembering, okay, but this is how I saw my brother. Well, this is how I raised my brother up when I was an elder sister to him, because I kind of had to assume a maternal role for him to understand that, okay, this is the point of view she's coming from, But now, why now I said that phrase is because my parents were not firstborns. My parents were somewhere towards the very end. I think maybe they had another younger sibling below them, but they were the age difference is not as big as me and my brother. So they were brought up. They didn't bring up anyone. So I was the first person they brought up. They're like, I don't know how to do this. I mean, we'll try and figure it out. So they try A doesn't work. They try B doesn't work. And they're like, C would probably work. Or if C works by C, like method C is not as effective, they'll still stick to it because, I mean, they're seeing it's making some significant progress. But even now, as I'm growing up and I'm seeing them like raising my brother, the things I'm seeing them doing and I'm realizing, okay, it took you a whole 11 years to figure that out. I mean, like, okay, that's fine. You figured it out. That's why I was like, I had to kind of be a trial run. And to some extent, I also think second borns are another test run, because whatever didn't work for the first born or whatever they're trying on the second born, it's either they're trying out new stuff or they're incorporating the effective methods that worked. But to some extent, second borns still are a trial run. The test run, like the test subjects. So that's from a firstborn perspective. That's how I see it. Let's go to our secondborn, our middle child.
Yeah, I definitely 100% agree with everything you just said.
Yeah.
I'm the middle child, so I have an older sister who's like 2.5 years older than me, and then I have a younger brother who's like 5 years younger than me. And I definitely agree. Like, I think my sister was definitely more the trial run in terms of like, she had a bit like stronger rules when she was growing up. Like, she got a phone later, she got like, certain privileges later, and then I got them a bit quicker because she already had them. So my parents already knew like, oh, this is safe, this isn't safe, whatever. And then my brother got like a phone or an iPad or whatever when he was like way younger than we were, because obviously we had already had them and they knew what it was like. So that's like, I think that's a good example of like the privileges that you get depending on where you are, like in the siblings, I guess. But I also think it might be kind of a thing of like where, like when you were born, because I know when my sister and I were born, it was like early 2000s. So the internet was very new, you know, social media was very new. So it was very much like, we don't know what this is like. We don't know what's safe. Like, all parents were very, like, you know, kind of scared of what the internet was and what, you know, what was safe, what wasn't. But once my brother was starting to use social media, they already knew that, like, what was safe, what wasn't. You know, everyone was using social media. All of his friends were on social media, which is also, like, you don't want to leave your kid out of, like, talking to their friends, you know, whatever. So then I think that also really changed, like, whether he got social media before we did or not, you know.
But I think just before even going to our needs, I think that the whole idea of like what period of like technological advancements you're born in makes sense, because my brother, I know he's below 10 years old, but he can operate an iPad much better than I can. I feel so embarrassed. I feel like I'm old.
My brother literally made a PC. Like, he literally built one.
That's amazing.
So, like,
you know, when my brother was being born,
computers.
we already had AI. I didn't like, AI was not created anew. So imagine in future when you're telling our kids, oh yeah, you know, mommy is older than AI, they're gonna be like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
They don't get. You never really.
What are you
about
talking
like
about? I'm literally like, well, you guys are Gen Z. I'm a millennial. Come on, my story is completely different than yours.
I just wanted to add quickly before we go on to Harneet's point of view. I also think, like, what you said about having the second kid also kind of be the trial run. I think also, like, because my parents are separated, so like they weren't always co-parenting, like, in the same house. So if my sister wasn't there and whichever parent we were with wasn't there, then I was the parent to my brother, and I was still, like, responsible a lot of the time. And my sister obviously graduated before me as well, so if whoever parent wasn't there, then I was still the one who was responsible for everything, because my brother is still, like, a child. Like, he's 15, but he's still a kid, you know. So I think, like, in some sense, the second child is also, like, the one who's raising the younger child. And I think my sister and I are a lot more opinionated in our views than my parents as well. So I think, like, we also kind of were raising him in that way as well, to, like, have the right views and, you know, stuff like that. And I think that's more, like, attributed to us than what our parents think, because they don't really care about that stuff that much.
Oh, poor parent.
Tell us your needs.
What?
As a last born.
It's not last, I would say.
You are the last born.
Just
You are the last born. Yeah.
Okay. I think it was a good mix. My dad, he's a second born. There are like 6 of them. So he comes, I think he was third, I guess, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. And then my mother, she's the eldest. So I think I got a good mix of both of them, wherein my mother is the eldest, so she kind of took care of her, you know, the youngest, my aunt, basically. And I think it was, how do I put it in words? Definitely with my elder sister, it was more of a trial run where they got to know things, you know, once the child grows up, what kind of challenges might come for them. I think it was definitely kind of a trial run, and for me, they knew a lot of things, so those rules were directly applicable to me. It's as simple that whatever mobile phones that she was using, I used to get them as second hand, you know. She used to get all the new stuff.
You get the used ones.
I used to get the used ones, but I think we pretty much got cell phones kind of at the same age. I think I was in 7th grade, 6th grade. I started texting from my parents' phone to my then girlfriends or whatever. I mean, it was just like school love, whatever.
You know, you can shout out to your girlfriends. Yeah.
She might see this. She's on Instagram. No, okay. No, but then otherwise, I guess like we got cell phones at the same time. I think for us, my parents didn't really, I would say, differentiate, but you know, between us. Definitely, I feel that she was the more privileged one. I think they went on really easy on her. For me, I think they were a bit, I wouldn't say strict. They were still chilled out, obviously, but then still they were a bit more careful or something. They used to tell me more, okay, you know, don't do this might happen or something like that. But all in all, honestly, I think I'm really again fortunate that my parents have been really like chilled out. My dad, I think he had some hardships where it was a joint family business. They were like 4 brothers and 2 sisters, my dad's side, and they were all in the joint family. Like we had a proper big family business all together, but he got separated in early 2000s. Around I'm not that old. I'm just a millennial. I'm 28, 96 born.
So old.
Yeah, okay, fine. Whatever.
30.
Pushing 30. Soon.
It's 28.
We're not even pushing 20 yet.
Almost midlife.
Shut up. Midlife. Come on, man. That's not fair. Yeah, I'm your dad. Okay, that's fine. We are coming back to that. Like, so it was a hard time for my dad and mom. Early 2000s. We were literally just 6 years old. My sister would have been around, I would say, like 11. But she's like 5 years elder to me. But honestly, they never really made us feel that, okay, we are starting from scratch again, because when he got separated, he had very less money and he built up his own business and everything. We never really felt like he always wanted to give us the best of the best life, like getting the car, or getting a club membership where we live our life properly. So I think my parents, like, they had trial runs and all of those things, but then still I think their focus was to get the best life for themselves and for their children. So that way, yeah, I mean, I really don't have to say anything on the trial aspect. Even if they did some trials, I think it kind of stayed up till them, like, but then I don't really feel that they kind of differentiated with either of us. Yeah.
Interesting. That was a deep story.
I think another aspect of it is like whether you're a boy or a girl growing up, like raising boys or girls, I feel like is obviously going to be a bit different just because of
absolutely, yeah.
Like if you're saying like you feel like they raised you like more similarly, they're also just raising a boy versus a girl, so it's also like kind of a trial run at the end of the day. Like obviously my sister and I had very similar hobbies and things growing up, so I feel like when it got to me, then they were kind of doing the same things. But my brother is like completely different. Like he's playing sports that we never played, and like he has like a completely not like different personality, but like different interests and things like that. So I think raising boys versus girls also kind of changes the way of parenting in a way, and that's also like why a switch in gender can also like kind of change, maybe be a trial run and change the parenting as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
We should start talking up to about some fun stuff now, about relatives and how the society.
I think we should wind this up. I do agree with what Sophie said. It's brought up because I think when I was a kid, I probably grew up more towards what the society deems boys should be growing up as. Like I was the type of people, I liked blue. You know how it was blues for boys, pink is for girls. Like my sister was pink, I was blue. She liked dolls. I liked like motorcycles. You were pink?
No, blue.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I thought you said you were pink, and I was like,
I was purple.
Pink? You were just an anomaly.
Exactly. Blue and black. That's still
really?
my color.
I loved blue. I still love blue, but like I kind of had that sort of I liked playing my football. I liked my sports. I liked the rowdiness, but my sister was more.
That's a nice word. Rowdiness.
The more
that's an Indian
physical.
Word. Rowdy.
But then she likes more calm, like pink and the dolls and the makeup stuff, the makeup kits. I remember even my parents would get us like gifts. I would get like a motorcycle, that would be sick, and she'd get like a Bratz doll or something. I'm like, why did you get that? Like, what would make you feel like you want to get something that has hair on its head and eyes that never close? Like, I found that so weird. So I was like, let me just play the motorcycle. I just pull the string and the motorcycle goes, and I'm like, yeah, I'm in paradise, and I don't know why that is. I've never actually understood. I think that's probably something I need to tap into. But now I was looking back in regards to like the community I grew up in. There's a way like boys are raised more like in a much more strict manner than the girls were, because they were being shaped to be the men of the house. Whereas, I mean, you're kind of being shaped, like girls are kind of being told, like, tap into your soft side. So, you know, like, we would be the ones in the kitchen and the boys would be the ones who would go fetch the water. Like, we would be the ones preparing the meal, but they're the ones who'd go come with the fire. Like, this is a proper village setting, you know. Like, these differences are more cultural differences, which I feel like deserves its like episode on its own, because it is a very deep conversation. So like Arnit says, let's go back. This was a nice deep detour, so let's go back into some funny conversations, right? Me, I was better when I was a kid, guys. I was whipped so in like any always you can think about, not even by just my parents, like the
pain is
I had to take a break. I had to take a breather. Parents, teachers, I think probably that's just it. I don't know what else.
Come on.
Teachers,
relatives. Come on, like,
I don't. There's something about.
We should talk about those aunties, you know, who used to always comment. And our parents used to compare. That's a fun thing to do,
bro. You would go for family, what do you call it?
Yeah,
like,
dynamics.
You know, let's say after a whole week of, you know, so like, for example, like for because my family is mostly based in the city, so we have like most of my cousins are based like back in the village. So like, would Christmas holiday were like, let's bring the whole squad together. So we'd go back to like, you know, the village, and we have a nice, you know, like meal. We've cooked things and they're like, oh, this is nice, you know. We sit and everyone just has a bottle of Fanta or Coke with their hands and like a plate full of everything. I'm telling you, everything. You're talking about chapati to pilau, there's a banana somewhere in there, there's like that was the peak moment of any African, you know, like kid.
Was that during like summer or winters?
You know, like like during Christmas, because now during December is when we have like our summer, so that's when it's hot. So it just be the best times ever. But not because you're meeting everyone. The aunties that have not seen you in a while, they just sit and they're like,
God.
and you've gotten big. I'm like, what about the hi? How are you? My name is that. You know, like it's the comments, and then your mom is just there like, I don't know what she's been eating nowadays, and I'm like, what did I just walk into? There's some comments that they made and they felt like they actually, like they had the space to, or like, I've been seeing and you're not even growing tall, and I'm like, why? You know, why?
Again,
there's some things that never made sense. Or if they hear, you don't know, Rispa got in trouble in school one time and they want to pitch in, and you know, the kids nowadays, they're so reckless.
You know, I know, I understand. Yeah. You're saying they used to say big? For me, it was opposite.
Really?
Like
so
any children, or basically any child who's gone, you know, a bit like, let's take if they're meeting after a long time, or let's say if they've gone out to study and then come back and they catching up with families, they always say, like for me, whenever I go back to India, or even in India, whenever I used to travel and meet my relatives every, like once in a blue moon, they always used to tell me, you've become so thin, aren't you eating properly, aren't you taking care of yourself? Like, it's literally about that. There has to be a comment, but it has never been you've become big.
Really?
I would say when it comes to like someone on their own age, or somewhere, I would say like a bit younger, like I wouldn't say. So for me, I mean, for me, it would be like they're seeing me as their own kid. So then it's going to be the same standard dialogue. You've become really thin. But sometimes, you know, a bit elder people who are in their society, they're going to be like, oh, look at her, she has gained weight and all of that. Probably, they're earning well. All of those things. It's really different. For you, I think it's probably you've become big. But for me, it's always you've become thin. This time when I went back to India in September, you've lost some weight, aren't you eating? Well, I'm like, come on, I'm happy with what I have.
Really?
I want to understand. You know,
like,
what happened with Sophie
on your side?
Talk about those aunties. Talk about those
when you guys have your
comment,
gatherings and everything. Well, like, what's the vibe like? Because for us, there's the sense of community is so huge, so everyone feels the need to chip in.
Exactly.
Even people, these aunties. There's even someone I've met like 2 months ago. Talk about years. I've probably not seen it like cheers, and the last time time I see it was some weird cousin's wedding or something.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then all of a sudden, wow, you become big. It's
Yeah,
like, what's the
and come
vibe?
to my children's wedding. I mean, we're gonna go into that.
You should see me next time.
We're gonna go into that direction after
What's the
this,
vibe
yeah.
on your side?
I mean, I think like we don't really have like group meetings like that in terms of like the families are a lot smaller. We don't really have like the aunties that aren't actually related to us and stuff. But I think when we do have like parties and stuff in the summer where we all see each other, it's a lot more like sly. Like no one's actually commenting outwards to you anything, but it's like what you have a little debrief after about everyone. You know, like no one's really like being like overtly like judgmental towards you, but everyone's like kind of like, oh, haven't seen her in 4 years, and like, you know, what has she done in the past 4 years or whatever. But I think in terms of like the body comments, I think at least in my family, like Finnish people are very like open with their bodies. Like
Love that.
we go swimming naked, we go in the sauna naked, like we see all different body types. And I think probably like, you know, in the modern day there are a lot of like beauty standards and stuff, so it might have changed a bit, but I think in general like nobody cares what you look like that much, at least like within the family. Like no one's commenting on your weight or anything, so I think in that way it's like a lot nicer, I guess, but I think sometimes it's like people aren't really saying their opinions straight up. They kind of are a lot more secretive about it.
Body positivity.
Interesting. Yeah, body positivity. That took so much effort, but we got there. I think body positivity is one thing that is it's not that it's lacking, but the awareness isn't there of what body positivity
And
is.
this goes back to the whole parenting style as well, what we were talking about. It's the awareness that, you know, probably some cultures don't have. You know, it's literally the awareness. Even when it comes to sex education as well, like it's literally about the awareness. Like people just don't know a lot of things, and I feel that's where definitely I believe government has to play that role in anywhere. But yeah, we're not going to enter into politics, but yeah, but you know, that's what I feel about. I mean, for example, India is a very, very big country. I mean, the challenges are absolutely very, very different than other nations across the world, because it's not easy to manage such a huge population, you know. So like it requires a lot of efforts. That's where I, you know, as I said before, that things have started to become so much better. It has become so much better. It's a very, very, I would say, vibrant country in terms of culture and like anything. It's so modern now. Like it still has that, you know, bad media publicity about you know, all of those petty crimes and all, but like, you know, it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry, I'm just cutting into, you know, a different direction. It's a very interesting thing. Like 2 weeks back I attended this World Travel Market, and there was this like an industry leader from India, and he was doing a guest talk, and he was talking about how India has gotten a very bad media publicity when it comes to tourism. Like people think that, okay, if I backpack in India I'm going to be mugged or something like that. Come on, man, you go to London, you're going to get stabbed. So
True.
I'm telling you, the cities have exactly the same level of crimes that any other city. It can be, you know, Brussels, it can be London, it can be New York. Like it's the same level. If you go to towns, it's relatively much safer than in any part of the other world as well.
There's a negative connotation around third world countries to first world countries, but you're forgetting that the same first world countries are gonna face the exact same problems. Like I feel like there's more mugging here than in my village.
Yeah, and I would say yes, a lot. It's a heavily populated country, right? So you definitely, it's a very, if you're traveling alone or solo, you need to be just aware about your surroundings, because it's a, you know, and if you're especially going to hot touristy areas like in London, you just have to be careful. It's just the same whole dynamics that are there, and definitely culture, as we were talking about, it has a different role to play altogether. But yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Since you spoke about the, you know, like the whole.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, because I think like, at least in Europe, like we have such a like we're so behind on the information from like places like India, because like the culture that I thought that India had is such a like an old view, because I think the information that we're getting is from so many years ago. Like, I remember I was talking to you about like the culture of like arranged marriages and stuff, and what I thought that it was like such an old culture that doesn't exist in a lot of the like parts of India anymore. And I think it's just like such a lack of education and like such a lag in the information that we have, and that's why we have such a like skewed view of what it's actually like in so many other countries, because we're getting like a really skewed picture of like, you know, like for example the tourism and like the safety, like it's really not that different, but like we just don't know enough. And same with the body positivity, like it's just all just like a lack of education, I guess.
It's literally that, and I would say that I'm not denying that obviously there are some areas, or I would say where people are a bit different. It's a big country, right? So you get your varieties everywhere. So being such a heavily populated country, you have both traditional kind of people as well as the modern kind of people. So like the arranged marriage things are still kind of relevant in some parts of India and in some families as well. Like all those things still exist, but it's not what it used to be 20 years ago, and what the media still hasn't really updated itself, right? It's like some parts are literally heavily modern, like it's literally way more modern in terms of tech than any other country, I believe. So like there's literally a lot to catch up on, and I feel over the past 10 years it has been happening where people know what India has and what India can do.
I think this whole conversation on cultural diversity is really deep, which is why it does need a second part.
Of course.
So we're gonna, leave you guys in suspense, and we're gonna come back with a part 2. So thank you guys for tuning into this episode, and stay tuned for the next one.
Yep.
Thank you.